There is only one city in the entire Pokémon world which houses two gyms. Saffron City in central Kanto is the home of Sabrina's Psychic-type gym, but also where you find the Fighting Dojo. Not only is this one of very few unofficial gyms in Pokémon, alongside the Cantonian gym in Alola and the Pre-gym in Finac City, it also holds the questionable title of being the only former gym in Pokémon history. And yet, the dojo has over time become a well-known establishment within the wide Pokémon world, with a legacy greater than most gyms ever get. What's up with that? How did the Fighting Dojo go from Sabrina's bachelor's neighbors to an institution? And who are the masterminds behind it all? All those questions will be answered by the end of this video, so I suggest we don't waste another second and dive right in. Let's begin with a quick crash course on the Fighting Dojo. Like I mentioned in the introduction, it is the building right next door from Sabrina's official gym in Saffron City. Once upon a time, the Fighting Dojo was a serious contender to become the official gym for Kanto's biggest city, and an official match was planned between Sabrina, representative of the city's psychic gym, and karate master Koichi, the leader of the dojo. Since Sabrina has a massive type advantage, she managed to defeat Koichi quite easily and claimed the title of official gym. I don't know about you, but to me this sounds incredibly unfair. It has never been confirmed if this is how all gyms operate, but it seems like a ridiculous system. So if a dark or ghost type specialist just waltzed into Saffron City now and started his own gym, could he just take Sabrina's place in the Pokemon League like that? Any ghost type trainer worth their money should be able to hold off a few monotype psychic types and a Venomoth, you'd think. There is also evidence to suggest this battle for the title happened relatively close to the start of the game. It's still fresh on the minds of the participants for one, but there's also the anime, where we of course follow Ash's story in presumably the same moment in time as Red's from the game. Here, the Fighting Dojo doesn't appear until Ash's second tour through Kanto, during the Battle Frontier arc, and also way later in Pokémon Journeys, but a slight nod to the Fighting Dojo is given during the original first season. In episode 72, Bad to the Bone, Ash and the gang meet Otoshi, who just like Ash has collected all 8 gym badges. We get to see some flashbacks to how Otoshi exactly won his badges, which I unfortunately can't show for copyright reasons, so enjoy these screenshots. We watch as Marowak pummels Surge's Raichu, Blaine's Magmar, and Sabrina's Hitmonlee. Hang on, Otoshi won the Marsh badge, i.e. the badge of Saffron City, by beating a Hitmonlee? That can't be a coincidence, right? Either an animator on the team got legit confused between the official and unofficial gym, or at least in the anime timeline, the Fighting Dojo was the official gym of Saffron City until only a very short while ago. And considering what kind of mayhem Sabrina is up to in the anime universe, Koichi would probably do a better job. Also, side note, but this flashback also shows Otoshi winning the Soul Badge by beating a Cypher, which Koga has never used. Maybe the guy is just gaslighting us all. Anyway, canonically, Koichi lost to Sabrina. And while he had every right to complain if you ask me, he accepted the decision. But instead of closing down his business, he remained open for trainers to stop by and challenge him and his black belts. While he wasn't allowed to reward them with an official gym badge, no one could stop him from giving rare Pokemon away. So that's exactly what he does, making this the only place in Kanto, before Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, where Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan can be obtained. Speaking of Let's Go, these games made the bizarre decision to change Koichi's team up in the most ridiculous way. Instead of using Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee himself, he instead now has a Soul Poliwrath, which doesn't even have 4 moves, mind you. A very weird change. Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee are kinda his whole thing. That said, the games do make up for it a little by having the master trainers for the 2 Hitmons found in the dojo after becoming the champion. The design of the Fighting Dojo equally reflects the failed attempt to become an official gym, as it has no gym puzzle or other challenge. While this is purely a theory on my part, I think it's likely the Pokemon League funds these puzzles for its gyms, leaving the Fighting Dojo tough out of luck. They have, however, been able to hide their shortcomings in a nice way, by explaining the gym doesn't have puzzles or mazes because it focuses on pure strength. That's a nice save. While it doesn't have any puzzles, the unofficial gym does have gym trainers, being the students of the Fighting Dojo, which has become a big new focus for the establishment. training not just Pokemon, but also their trainers in the art of fighting is one of the dojo's core values, which is something we don't see very often in official Pokemon gyms, in the games at least. Anime does more often play up gyms as having more of a community purpose, but in the games it's rather rare. Following the events of Pokémon Red and Blue and their remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green, Koichi decides it's time to leave his title of Karate Master behind and leaves the dojo. His replacement is known as Kaio, also known under the moniker of Karate King. Now, I have read over the years that some people think this is a mistranslation, and that Kaio and Koichi are the same person. That hails from the fact that the two names mean the same thing, something akin to clean. However, in Japanese, these two characters also have different names, being Takanori for Koichi and Nobuhiko for Kaio, meaning they have always been intended to be different characters. Anyway, despite Koichi presumably picking Kaio as his successor, I can imagine he'd be happy to find out that when we visit the Fighting Dojo in Gold, Silver and Crystal, we find it to be largely deserted. Kaio can instead be found in Mount Mortar in the Johto region, where he is training on his own. He can also be battled here, using the familiar Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, and gives out that brand new pre-evolution Tyrogue after being defeated. All very nice and all, but the dojo is not exactly thriving back there in Kanto. All left inside is one black belt and a bunch of statues, making the dojo slogan "Everyone welcome" a bit of a sad one. But man, what foreshadowing it was. 20 years later, in the Gen 2 remakes Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the Fighting Dojo returns to former glory. In this timeline, or however you want to call it, the Fighting Dojo is still abandoned by Kaio, but instead of leaving one student behind to be a human closed sign, it now serves as the place where Kanto and Johto's gym leaders come to mingle and are available for a rematch. A neat little detail here is the fact that every Johto gym leader stands on the left of the dojo, while the Kanto gym leaders stand on the right, referencing the location on the map of their respective regions. It does make for a weird visual though, like a bunch of teens scared to hit the dance floor at their first party. Another fun fact is that if you, the player, are inside the dojo along with a gym leader and then call them, they will pick up, but say they have bad reception. Seems like the dojo wants to discourage using cell phones inside. Or Kaio forgot to pay the electricity bill before going to Mount Mortar. While this is the last point in the timeline we ever set foot in the Fighting Dojo again, we are repeatedly reminded of the prominence and reputation of the dojo in several other regions. In Unova, there is a black belt gym trainer in Bryson's gym in Icarus City who says he used to train at the Fighting Dojo in Kanto. On Mount Lanakila in Alola, we find several more black belts who learned their craft in Saffron City, and in Sword and Shield, we meet a fellow gym challenger known as the Nep who says he trained at the Fighting Dojo to become even stronger. It tells us a lot about the place the Fighting Dojo holds within the Pokemon world, where even in faraway regions, you can still find students of Koichi or Kaio. They may have lost their battle to be an official gym, but I have never seen anyone say they used to train under Sabrina. It's no wonder then that the dojo sensei would think about expanding. In Pokemon X and Y, we can find either Koichi or Kaio in Lumio City. It isn't entirely certain who it is, as their name isn't mentioned, but this black belt does explain they used to be the master of the Fighting Dojo in Kanto. They're now trying to open a similar establishment in Kalos's biggest city, in their own apartment in Centrico Plaza. However, as a nearby student explains, things aren't apparently going too well, with most people only signing up because he's telling them it's a dance studio. The final appearance, up until this point, of anything related to the Fighting Dojo is Kaio's appearance in the mobile game Pokémon Masters EX. In the event Raise Tyrogue, he reprises his role from the Johto games, meaning he hands out a Tyrogue to the player, but more importantly, this game puts Kaio eye to eye with Sabrina. For the first time in series history, we see the leaders of these rival establishments interact. And while the dialogue is nothing too spicy, it does show us tensions haven't let up after all these years. Kaio challenges Sabrina to a battle, his wording making clear he has never challenged her. But as you might expect if you have heard of type matchups before, he is no match for the Psychic Specialist. And there ends the story of the Fighting Dojo, one of the most unique locations in the Pokemon world. For now at least, because with the renown the location still seems to have, with references as recent as Gen 8, I doubt we'll have heard the last of Sabrina's sympathetic neighbors. Thanks so much if you made it this far. Share your thoughts on the Fighting Dojo in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my future Pokemon content coming up. For now, enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you all again soon.